Shithar. We have a great pleasure to have with us Dr. Kaushik Shithar, the entrepreneur, business coach, university lecturer, and corporate leader in sustainability. He has over 14 years of experience in developing strategies to reduce environmental impacts. He was named among the 40 under influential Asian Australian, whereby widely published in Australian and international journals. It is more than a privilege to invite Dr. Kaushik to present us with his work and guide us throughout this session. On behalf of the Student Union and UTN, we would like to extend our gratitude to have you among us today. Let's welcome Dr. Kaushik with a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. If tomorrow was your last day on earth, would you have any regrets? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. If tomorrow was my last day on earth, I would have no regrets. Throughout my life, I have always winged it. And in order to successfully wing it, I have an approach, and it's called follow your dot. Would you like to know more about this approach?
Yeah.
Good morning to all of you, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. A special thank you to University of Technology Mauritius for this kind invitation, and I'm really looking forward to having a fun chat with you this morning, those of you who can stick around. My name is Dr. Kaushik Sridhar, and I'm coming here from Sydney, Australia. Since I was born, I have been a professional tennis player, a tennis coach, two-time TEDx speaker, a corporate professional, board member, university lecturer, mentor, and most recently, a published author. I would like to spend the next half an hour or so giving you some insights into my life journey and why I am the way I am today, and also why I am where I am today. Followed by the 30 minutes, I will open to Q&A, questions and answers, and you can ask me any questions you want, and I will do my best to respond. The journey hasn't always been easy. It hasn't always been easy. And please note, I am not a motivational speaker. I am not a motivational speaker. I'm a pragmatic realist who has a lot of lived experiences that I want to share with you today, and how I overcame certain tricky situations. Hopefully, by the end of our time together, you will have some life lessons and some tools that you can slot into your life toolkit and use it to help you navigate this very complex and chaotic world. So if you're ready to go on this journey with me over the next 20 to 30 minutes, please say yes. So I'm from India. I'm from South India. That's where I was born. At the age of 2, my parents and I moved to Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa. By the age of 6, I had already been held at gunpoint 3 times. A gun to my head. At the age of 6, I became a ball boy for my dad and his tennis friends. And this was the age I picked up my first tennis racket. At the age of 12, I became number 1 ranked in tennis in Nigeria. It was at this time my parents received a letter from talent scouts who were looking to recruit young, promising tennis professionals from around the world to their tennis school in America, United States of America. At that time, I didn't know what America was. I was young, innocent, naive. I still remember my dad coming to me and saying, "Kaushik, you have a great opportunity once in a lifetime to go to America and do something that we think you love doing and you're quite good at it. You will be leaving us soon and we don't know when we will see you again. What do you think about that?" Remember, I was 12. I had a very protected upbringing. I'm an only child. I had a very protected upbringing, which I'm sure many of you can relate to. I still remember looking at my mom when my father asked me that question and she started to cry. She cried. And then I looked at my dad and I said, "I'm too young to make this decision. So what do you want me to do?" And my father said, "Take it." And so I took it. At a very young age, I realized that such opportunities are few and far between. And when they come up, you have to seize it. And so I seized it. It might be scary, it might be challenging, it might be daunting, but I always believe not seizing the opportunity is far worse. Even if you think you are not ready, I always advise to forge your own path, take a leap of faith, and follow your doubt. Now, to soften the blow of leaving me in the tennis school, my parents took me to Disneyland. How many of you know Disneyland? You don't know Disneyland? It's not that important. It's a little place with a little mouse called Mickey Mouse in Florida with some rides. So they took me to Disneyland. After we finished there, they took me to Texas. We were on a flight. We're flying over the water, and at some point, the plane starts to crash. It starts to nosedive. You saw the video of the Nepal flight yesterday? It's not that different to what I went through. I didn't record it at that age. We didn't really have technology. I remember the oxygen masks came out. People were yelling, screaming. It was absolute chaos. I was sitting between my mom and dad, and I could feel the water coming closer and closer and closer. Imagine. I looked at my mom. Guess what she was doing? She was crying. Praying, maybe. I think she had given up at that time. She was ready to die. And I looked at my father, and he kept saying, we're going to die, we're going to die. This is what he kept telling me again, and he was crying. But me, I didn't shed one tear, and I didn't feel any fear. I was actually thinking, this is quite interesting. This is quite interesting. I'm looking at people behaving in a situation that they're not used to. So I was very intrigued. It was our lucky day because at some point the plane stabilized and made an emergency landing in a place called Louisiana. If I was a guessing person or a betting person, I would say we were about 20 to 50 seconds from death. Something happened that day. Something that has been a constant in my chaotic life. I was calm, almost serene. I had a feeling that everything would work out. Everything would be okay. I wasn't reacting overly to what might be happening in the future. I was just letting things unfold around me. Even when things are grim, please remember there is always hope. You've got an exam in 20 minutes, you're going to nail it. That's my point. When things are grim, there is always hope. And something positive can come out of the most worst, difficult, challenging situations. This is an attitude that has carried me throughout my life, through some good times and through some very, very dark times. How many of you have heard of a philosopher, a Chinese philosopher named Confucius? Yeah. Confucius said, life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. Life is really simple, but we insist on making it complicated. For me, keeping a clear mind has helped me say yes to many opportunities that have come my way. Some that I may not have been technically ready for because of a lack of education or a lack of experience. But I took them anyway with energy, optimism, positivity, a willingness to learn, and also to use my previous experiences and make them transferable across different industries and different companies. Now, I didn't know if I would be successful from the outset. How could I? But I always set myself up to succeed by going in with the right attitude. I've done many things in my life, as I said before. I've played tennis around the world against some of the best players, some names that you might know. I have been a tennis coach to little babies, 3-year-olds, to old 83-year-olds. I have taught business courses at some of the world's best universities around the world. I have mentored hundreds of young people like you. And for the past 16 years, I have worked in the field of sustainability, which I hope many of you know. There's a school that I saw, Sustainable Development, for some of the world's biggest companies like KPMG, Ernst & Young, etc. A lot of it was unplanned. I'm not one for 5 or 10-year plans. Rather, I just seize opportunities as they come. But it hasn't always been easy. There have been some tough, scary, bleak times. As I told you earlier, I've been held at gunpoint. Almost died in a car crash. I still have the scar to prove it. Good luck with the test. I almost died in a near plane crash. Have fun at class. I've endured years of schoolyard bullying and isolation. I've learned to cope with pressures in the corporate and academic world. This includes racism and bullying. And during the COVID pandemic, I lost my job and I had to rebuild. All of this with 39 years on the planet. So I'm 39, my age. Throughout my life, I have learned to break free, forge my own path, take leaps of faith. It's not easy to always run against the wind. You will face resistance. You will face doubts and people who doubt you. But you need an inner resolve, one that can be cultivated and enhanced. And I always tell people, where you can, try to wing it and follow your dot. So you might be wondering now, what is this guy talking about these dots? So what I want to share with you briefly are 3 dots in my life. Only 3. The first dot is tennis. Tennis was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, one that could make or break me. I decided to place myself in the hands of fate, something that I would do over and over again in my life. Little did I know how turbulent the years ahead of me were to become. I want you to imagine this. 12 and a half to 13-year-old boy, Indian boy, in a tennis academy in a jungle in Texas, thousands and thousands of kilometers away from my parents. I'm sitting in the common room one evening. 6 boys come into the common room and they start making fun of everything that I represent. So they made fun of the oil in my hair. They made fun of the color of my skin. They made fun of my accent. I had an Indian accent. They made fun of that. They made fun of the clothes I wear, my Indian clothes. They made fun of that. They made fun of the shape of my body because I was very thin and very small. They made fun of everything I represented. But I never saw it as bullying and racism. I actually thought, oh, they look at me differently to the way I see myself, and it's okay. But unfortunately, they saw an opportunity in my vulnerability that day. Guess what happened the next day? So the next day, my lovely roommate comes into my room, and I'm sitting on my little single bed. He starts to make fun of me, my face, my accent, everything that's Kaushik, and then starts to beat me. He's 2 times my size. He beats my face, my chest, my back, my legs, my arms, and I'm a tennis player. I need my arms and my legs. And he beats it. And he doesn't just beat, he beats. And next day, 2 boys come in. And then 3 boys come in. And then 4 boys come in. And then 5 boys come in. And then 6 boys come in. So picture this, 365 days. So one whole year, 6 boys beat the shit out of me. What would you do if you're in my place? Go back home, cry?
Try and continue.
Try and continue?
Stay. Not fight back, but like fight.
Anyone else? Call the police. Yeah. So at that time, we didn't know anything called therapy or mental health or any of these things, right? So I had 2 options. I will kill myself or I will go on with my life. And at 13, what do? I actually thought it was okay for me to be beaten because I thought I was different to them and I was not as cool as them. So I thought, okay, please keep beating me. That's how I thought. Remember, people will hate you, rate you, shake you, and break you, but how strong you stand is what makes you. For me, my tennis career was still going on. Somehow, I was able to close one part of my life, the shit part, and focus on the other part, which was my tennis. All great athletes, they have a mental switch. Not sure how many of you have heard of this. All great athletes have a mental switch. It's like a light switch in the house. When you flip the switch, the light goes on. Similarly, your brain has a mental switch. When you flip it, your mind goes into a state of perfect focus, confidence, and concentration. For me, manipulating my attention is the key to flipping my switch. From taking this whole world around me and all the distractions to focusing on a particular task, the whole weight of the mind comes behind me. Throughout my career, I have learned to focus on a task, a group of people, or any goals at hand. And everything else is a distraction. You might be wondering, what did I achieve in my tennis career? I got a ranking of 900 in the world. So I was 900. It sounds good, but it's not. I played college tennis in America. I don't know how many of you know about American universities, but if you play sports there, you're considered a god. So you might think my achievements are noteworthy, but they're not. They're not good enough. Something inside me, the passion, the desire, the ambition for tennis was dying. It was diminishing. Maybe because of the bullying. And many people, my family, my friends, they said you should get a job, a 9-to-5 desk job, because I'm nearing the end of my degree. But for me, every time my life has gone in a conventional direction, I've always shied away from it. I like lateral thinking. I like things from left field. So 1 week before my graduation, I got a phone call from a lady, a retired, famous tennis player from Australia. And she said, Kaushik, would you like to come to Australia and help build a tennis school with me? It had nothing to do with my university degree. And I got the call at 4 a.m., by the way. It had nothing to do with my university degree. But I took it. I saw it as a new chapter in my life, something different, and I just went for it. Please remember, if you try, you may fail. But if you don't, you will fail. These people took a chance on me, a 21-year-old with no experience, to almost build a startup. It was like a startup. But the way I saw it was a chance to build an amazing coaching career and also to see how to build a business from scratch. Many have asked me, what's the highlight of my career till today? And that job was the highlight of my career. And you want to know why? Imagine this. We had to teach tennis to a 3-year-old, 13-year-old, 23-year-old, 43-year-old, 63-year-old, 83-year-old. Each with different egos, different needs, different skills, different communication requirements, all trying to align them on a common purpose, a common vision, to hit a really good shot over the net. Unfortunately, 1 year after taking this job, I realized my passion for tennis was dead. It was dead. And I needed to find a new dot. And so my second dot was transitioning from the tennis court to the corporate world. Change requires patience, and a career change requires a positive attitude. I took a leap of faith and I did an MBA in Sydney, Australia. I'm guessing many of you are doing some MBAs or other degrees. But I didn't do an MBA to double my salary, to further my knowledge, further my career, to tell people I have an MBA. No. I did an MBA because I thought it was fun. That's why I did it. But while doing the MBA, I realized, or I got an internship opportunity for a global IT company to work in a field that I didn't care about and I didn't know about, called sustainability. Many of you will hear of terms like climate change, human rights, indigenous issues, community engagement. So this is what I was exposed to 16 years ago when I took the internship. So in true Kaushik style, I didn't know what the hell was sustainability, but I took it. But one of the things I did really well, I think, was form strong relationships with people. One of the best experiences of the internship was that they gave me a voice. They listened to me, they respected me, they taught me, they coached me, they mentored me. They taught me how to write a business case, and they even got me to present it to a leadership team. But the best part for me was to wear a suit and go into an office. Because until then, I'd always been on a tennis court. This was my first office experience. It was while doing this internship that I realized here's an amazing opportunity to have a positive impact on the environment and the community. But still, I didn't have a plan, a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan. I'm sure many of you might get stressed if you don't know what the future holds. For me, when I don't know what the future holds, I get really excited. I get very happy. And so that brings me to my third dot, which is a PhD, my last dot. Many told me not to do a PhD because they said the corporate world will see that as a threat. Remember, the biggest mistake a person can make is being afraid of making one. I did a PhD, not because I wanted the doctor in front of my name. I hate people when they call me doctor. Not because I wanted to say I have a PhD, not because of any usual reasons. But I did a PhD because I wanted to learn a bit more about sustainability. That's it. But it was while doing this PhD I got advice, a feedback, which is one of the best pieces of feedback I've received in my entire life, and one of the reasons I'm actually here in front of you today. When you develop a PhD, you need a plan, but you also need a topic that is engaging for people to understand what your research is about. I did my title, my topic, 25 words. I thought it was amazing. How do you young people say epic? I thought it was epic. And so I emailed it to my supervisor, thinking, he's going to love it. He sent me an email back, something that we would dread to receive from our superiors. He said, come see me in my office tomorrow. So the next day I went into his office. He said, sit down. And so I sat down. I was shitting my pants. Bless him. He's in Sydney somewhere. And he said, Kaushik, is this your title? And I said, yes, this is my title. And then he said, are you trying to change the world? And I said, yes, I'm trying to change the world. Not because I'm trying to change the world, but because I wanted to have a positive impact. He said, give me that white sheet of paper and a pencil. So I gave it to him. He took the paper and he drew a circle. He then looked at me and he said, you see the white space in the circle? That is the breadth and depth of knowledge that exists in this universe. He then took the pencil again and put a dot in it. And he said, that's you. That's the impact your PhD will have. And that's probably the impact you will have in your entire life. So relax. Try not to change the world and just focus on your dot. At the time, the feedback was shocking to me. It derailed me. What was said to me and the way it was said was tough to handle. But over time, I realized it's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received. My family, my friends, my colleagues, my bosses, my bullies, they've all advised me. But this is the one that really stuck. Following my dot helps me to sleep at night. Because I can't be everything for everyone, and I can't change everything for everyone, and I can't do everything for everyone. Sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I think about my little dot, where I can have an impact, whether with my wife, with my team, with my students, with my business. I achieve the dot, and then I'm happy, I'm satisfied. The challenge we have is many people don't think about the dot. They think about the white space in the circle. And when you can't change the world, when you can't achieve the white space, you get anxiety, you get overwhelmed, you get stressed, mental health, all these things. So before I finish, I want to leave you with this. Every day, 86,400 seconds are deposited into your life account. These seconds are much more valuable than money because you can always make more money, but you can't always make more time. To realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. I hope no one here has failed a grade. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask a couple in a long distance relationship. Anyone here in a long distance relationship? Sure, I almost believed you. To realize the value of 1 minute, ask someone who just missed a train, a bus, or a plane. To realize the value of 1 second, ask someone who just escaped an accident. And to realize the value of 1 millisecond, ask an Olympic athlete who just came second. Life and time are our two best teachers. Life teaches us to to make the best use of time, and time teaches us the value of life. At the end of the day, when your time is up, you get another 86,400 seconds deposited into your account. Now, you wouldn't waste it if it was money. So why do we waste it when it comes to time? There's good news and bad news. The bad news is that time flies. But the good news is you're the pilot. The worst mistake we can make is thinking we have an infinite amount of time. Me, I've tried my hands at many things. I've already told you, tennis, corporate, consulting, blah, blah, blah. I've enjoyed most of my experiences. And I've done well in some and not so well in some. Not by any generic definition of success, but by my own standards. My challenge to you and my request to you is for you to think about what success means to you. You and only you can define what a truly successful life and a successful career means. Think about your dot, define your dot, and then go about allocating the time required for you to fulfill that dot. I'm 39, but I've been through a lot. I've been through a lot. And I've had to get myself out through a lot by myself. I left my parents when I was a baby. I don't know, 13. One day I was sleeping in the same bed with them. Next day I'm sleeping in a bed by myself. I was bullied. I don't wish bullying on any of you. But for me, I'm grateful to them. Because they made me who I am today. They gave me the mental fortitude to survive in this very, very complex world. I don't know how many of you know, but I just written a book. The book's been published 2 months ago. It has an acknowledgement. The acknowledgement is not to my wife, it's not to my parents, it's not to any famous people that I know. The acknowledgement goes to the bullies. And it's not just the 6 bullies, it's the 50, 100 bullies I've had in my life. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. So far, so good? Everyone feeling okay? In the vast white page of existence, we have a tiny dot for territory. So my request to you is think about your dot and the impact you can have. Even if you don't change the world, it's your contribution to this world. And you should be damn proud of it. You've invested a lot in your education, right? And others have invested a lot in you. And believe me when I say this, the world needs your talents. There is a war on talent at the moment. But the question is, what are you going to do with what you have? And I don't mean how much. Some of you might be computer science majors, business majors, other majors. Some of you might have the gift of money. Some of you might have the gift of love. Some of you might have the gift of patience. Some of you might have the gift of long suffering. But no matter what gift you have, the challenge is what are you going to do with that gift? I'm going to tell you something that many people may not tell you, and that is to fail, and fail big. Someone once told me, in order to have something you never had before, you need to do something you've never done before. And when you do that, you might fail, and you might fail a lot. But that's okay, embrace failure, and learn from it. Don't get demotivated by it. But professionally, push yourself. There's an old IQ test that had 9 dots in a box. And the challenge was to draw 5 lines within those 9 dots without lifting the pencil. And the only way to do that was to draw outside the box. So my challenge to you is think outside the box. Have dreams, but also have goals, because dreams without goals are a stepping stone to disappointment. Finally, I want to share with you a story, the last story of my most recent challenge. And I hope you're ready for this. February 2020. How many of you have heard of this thing called COVID? Dumb question. In February 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world like a ton of bricks. In March 2020, my dad went into ICU. Not for COVID, but something much worse. Remember, I'm an only child, so my mom and dad are alone. In April 2020, I was planning to go and help, but all flights got cancelled across the world. So I might never see him again. In May 2020, from my dream job in my dream company, I was given 2 days notice to leave the job. Redundancy. 2 days to get out. In August 2020, I got another job. Double the salary from my previous job at a time when companies were not hiring. But that's not what I wanted to share with you now. Between May and August, those 3 to 4 to 5 months was the best of my professional career. The best. If you want to know more, chapter 8 of my book. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. So my challenge to you is, have you found your dot? And if you haven't, let's find out together. My name is Kaushik. Thank you for your time. Questions?
I have one. You believe in God?
My mother-in-law is in the room. Whenever I travel, I have a sculpture of Ganesha. My wife knows this. I take this Ganesha, not because I believe in Ganesha or because I believe in religion, but growing up, and I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday about this thing called conditioning. I was conditioned to be Hindu and to pray to God, and Ganesha was the remover of obstacles. Right? So whenever I travel, I take Ganesha with me, not because I believe in Ganesha or believe in Hinduism or anything like that. It's just something that gives me some comfort that everything will be okay. It may not, and I don't care, but I just take it. But to give you a direct answer, do I believe in God? No, I don't. I may not get dinner tonight, but that's okay. No, it's okay. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is, there's a lot of things in this world, religion, politics, technologies, subject matter, there's a lot, social media, there's a lot of things, right? We have a tiny little brain. How much can we absorb? How much can we digest? Do you think I give a SHIT about the meaning of life? I don't, because I'm wasting 2 minutes that I can do something else that's real and practical. So it depends on each of you. If you believe in God, there's nothing wrong with that. If you have the faith, 100%, go for it if it gives you satisfaction and happiness. For me, the most important mantra, and my wife knows this, the living case study, I like to be happy. And when I'm not happy, there's a problem. The problem has to be resolved. Can be through religion and God, can be through a conversation, can be through a hobby, can be through anything. Is that okay? Sorry. Questions? Winging it?
Often times means working a thin line between stability and chaos, and more often than not, that's chaos. So how do we find peace?
The question is, how do we find peace between stability and chaos? Because when you wing it, it's quite chaotic. How many of you like stability?
2, 3.
How many of you like chaos?
In the middle.
You like chaos? Why do you like chaos?
It is dynamic and so on.
So 3 days back, I jumped off a plane in Riviera du Rampart, skydiving, right? When I jumped, I felt stable. But that's not normal. When you jump off a plane, it's chaotic because you can die. Many things can go wrong, right? It's the risk and reward appetite. I think it comes down to your definition of what's good enough for you. Life can be stable quite easily if you're easily satisfied. But life can be chaotic if you're constantly bored and searching for something new. So it comes down to your appetite and what you're thirsty and hungry for. For me, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. can be chaos. 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. has to be stability. Because my wife is the priority from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. And if I be chaotic at home, ain't gonna work. But in my professional life, chaos is okay. Because life is meant to be a bit chaotic. For me, chaos is fun. Stability is boring. I hate stability. And my wife and mother-in-law, I keep pointing, sorry, because they know me really well in this room. None of you know me that well. They know I can't handle stability. I'm a nomad. I like to move around the world. I'm bored with Australia. I'm looking for the next challenge. But for people who like stability, that sounds chaotic. But for me, I enjoy that rush, the adrenaline. So it comes down to you, what you want to do, and are you happy with the 9 to 5 desk job, switch off, or you want to do a bit of studies and a bit of consulting and a bit of design. You're a graphic design major. You're a very creative soul. And that's okay. The world needs creative people because the world has a lot of boring people.
One of your story, you said that you are the way to switch on the concentration and precision. How do you do it? Like, what was your way to do it?
So I'll give you an example before I answer that. Today, how many of you are here? 30, 20 of you are here? You both are a little bit stressed as the organizers, right? Because you're probably thinking, I need to fill up this room for this person who has come from somewhere. But I don't see it that way. Even if you had 5 people, my focus will be on those 5 people. Because if you can have an impact on 5 people, that's job done. Even one person, right? So when I came here, my mind just shifted from the chaos that was happening in terms of trying to get students to come to just having an impact with the 20 of you. You're all that matter to me. I don't care about anything outside this room until I finish my talk. So the switch. How do you do it? My sister-in-law asked me this. How do you do this switch? I can't really have a scientific answer for you. Your mind is very strong. Your head is very strong. But you own your mind. Your mind doesn't own you. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, does it? Because when your mind owns you, that's when you have certain issues. If you're in control of your mind, you can tell your mind what needs to be done when. My wife always says, you're very strong here. I don't know what that means until she told me. I just say, my focus is you. My focus is you. It's not that hard. We try to make life difficult because we have so many TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram and all of this. I'm on bloody TikTok. Don't watch my videos, they're quite dumb. I just sit and talk about happiness. And it's so boring because TikTok is about dancing and stuff, right? But it's you controlling your mind. Is there a way to do that? It's through experience, through failing, through getting hurt, through overcoming challenges, through I've been fired, I lost my job, I've almost lost my dad, I've been beaten, I've been racially abused a lot in Australia, in America. These experiences make you who you are. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to give you a scientific answer or a spiritual answer. I'm just telling you to control your mind. Anytime you think you're fraying to the right or the left, just say, pause, let me think about this. That's it. And the book has a chapter on the switch. Any more questions? I'll start walking around if you don't ask. You're very, there's a lot of noise coming from this part of the room. I love it. As a teacher, I'm used to this. Any questions or comments? We're trying to think. Any other questions?
Let's say that you have an opportunity and you know that 80% you're going to fail. Do you risk
It's the 80-20 rule, isn't it? 80% versus the 20%. So the question was, if you know you're going to do something and you have an 80% chance of failure, do you still do it? If you're going to look at the 80% and put more weightage on that, then it might cloud your judgment. But you want to think about the 20% and what is the impact of that 20%, right? Even in my job profile, I don't know how to explain this equation correctly, but 20% of my job has 80% of the impact that I do. 80% of the job is admin. And it's a waste of my time. So I have a team and people who get all that stuff done. Not saying it's not important, because that's what keeps the structure going and the foundations. But it depends on how you define that 20%. When I took the tennis opportunity, there was an 80% chance of failure. Here I am, a skinny little 13-year-old Indian boy. All the people in the tennis school are 2 or 3 times my size. And you've seen tennis players. I was not built for tennis. And I had a high probability of failure. But I guess what my dad saw is maybe that 20%. He saw maybe this is a character building opportunity for my son. So let me send him away and let's see what happens to him. Maybe. So I always say, think about your impact, what you want to achieve. And the 20% outweighs the 80%, why not? Because if you fail, it's like the subtitle in my book, what's the worst that could happen? But you tried something, which hopefully you enjoyed. If you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. Don't waste time, unless it's worth wasting for. Relationships are sometimes like that, right? Have you thought of your question yet?
Yeah. Suppose I had this amazing opportunity, and if I do that, I can have an amazing life. But then how do I convince my parents to let me do it? Because my parents are kind of protective.
Okay, so I'll respond, but I might request, my wife might tell me to, if I don't make sense, because sometimes I say stuff. No, I don't mean in a bad way, it might be a little bit complicated, and I can make it easier. So you have an amazing opportunity. You will have an amazing opportunity, and there might be some potential headwinds from family or from parents. And do you think the opportunity might be overseas, or is it just a different career opportunity? It's a very simple answer. And you can stop me if you want. It's a very simple answer. You have 2 feet. There's an expression, no, you put your foot down. So you put one foot down, and the other foot down, and say, I'm taking this opportunity, whether you like it or not. It's like so in India, right, there was 300-400 people, and one question one student asked was exactly that. Relatives and family, with the opportunities and challenges, how do we navigate? Because it is a very difficult landscape. This is emotional. This is blood, family. So that's a different story as opposed to friends or colleagues or etc. But for me, all are the same. I treat everyone equally. That's just me, how I am. Maybe it's wrong. But for an opportunity overseas, it's your life. But the key thing is not to do anything rash. Once you have researched, you have calculated, and you're saying to yourself, I believe that this is the best thing for me, and maybe validate it with a couple of people that you trust, maybe in your professional network and your personal network, then you have a business case that is iron tight, that a mom and dad cannot, it's not about having an argument, because sometimes when you have an argument, the 2 sides might not be coming from the right place. Maybe they don't have all the information, right? So it's our job to convince our families, but why this is the best thing for us. It's like a band-aid. Sometimes we're scared to argue for what we want. You rip the band-aid slowly. Hurts a bit, no? Just rip it. So you put your foot down. Not the first time. The first time is a conversation. But if it's not going anywhere, you're wasting time. And then you say, this is the best thing for me. I am going to do it. That's how I did my PhD. That's how I did my MBA. That's how I live my life. And it's not because I went overseas. Please don't think because I went overseas I am like this. No. I didn't learn anything overseas. I got beaten. So does that make sense? Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
Some ways, yes.
In what ways does it not?
Like I think I can convince my parents if I have like all the information. I think I can do it.
Yes. Any other questions? Any other questions from the back? Nabia,
I have one question.
Yes.
If you had to redo your life, would you do anything differently?
No. No regrets. Very happy. Very happy. If tomorrow is the last day, I will go happily. No problem.
Let's say you feel stuck. You have a headache. How do you process the next week? What do you do when you feel stuck?
When you feel stuck, so here's the thing. When I told you what I always think you have a toolkit around you like a belt, right? And you have different slots to have different activities or different passions or different hobbies. When I'm stuck, I have my outlet. My outlet might be to watch a travel documentary. Sounds simple and silly, but 10 minutes of a travel documentary, I'm okay. Or I don't really have any hobbies. I used to draw and stuff. So for you, I would say when you feel stuck, don't ruminate on that. It ain't gonna change for the short term, right? So you do something else that brings out your creative side, or your happier side, or your less stressful side. Maybe talk to your family on WhatsApp, or I don't know what's your outlet. Basketball, sports, man. Sports is if are you passionate about basketball? So you do basketball, you use that as an outlet, and then you come back. And if you're still stuck, you do what's called the Ishikawa root cause analysis, fishbone diagram you learn in management, MBA. And you get to the root cause of why you're stuck. It shouldn't take you more than 10 to 15 minutes. And when you find the root cause, you have two options. Either you fix it, or there's a bad word. Starts with the letter F. It. And move on to the next thing. Why ruminate when we can cultivate? Yeah.
How we want people to find their good in their lifetime?
I beg your pardon?
Will we find our good in our lifetime? Will we be able to
Find what, sir?
find the
Other time. Do you love what you do? You don't. If you do, in the first half a second, you would say yes. So what do you like to do for just day to day? Like what gives you happiness, satisfaction? Artwork, outdoor activities. Maybe I'll share my wife's example of what she does now. If it gives you some example. She's Mauritian. No, the clay. The clay. So she does clay. I don't know how many of you know polymer clay. She makes earrings and keychains and magnets and stuff, right? We met 8 years ago, and she was in a different field. She was in hospitality in Australia. It was not her dot. She hated that job. She hated, but she had to do it to survive, to just make ends meet. And then we met, and then she did a class here in Mauritius, and then a sculpting class, went back, and in the plane she said, that sculpting class, when I was doing that, everything else was meaningless in my life. It was perfect just to focus on one thing, and I felt great. Today, she has an online shop with over 500 sales, etc. But that doesn't matter to her. The sales, the money doesn't matter. What matters is the creation she makes, because when she makes it, it's better than being married to me. It's hard, I know. It's better than being with family. It's better than anything in her life, and that is her dot. And she found it. It took her 36 years to find it, and she found it. She's a living, breathing example of someone who was like, life sucks. Without clay, I can't live. Put her on a stranded island, she won't take me. She'll take tissue because she has sinuses, And then she would take clay to make some keychains. So my recommendation is don't wait for the dog to find you. Try to see if you can find it. But to do that, you need to try a few different things and be open-minded. Yes?
Out of all the risk and opportunities you took throughout your life, how much was it a calculated risk and how much was just trying to do something? Just like you, I took many opportunities blindly. I was in economics major in my college and now I'm doing economics blind. And throughout it, I did many internships and took every opportunity I could. Let's say blind and not calculated one. For you, how was it? Prepare or calculate the factors, which is fine.
So I think the question is, when you take risks, is it more calculated or is it more blind? You just kind of go with it, right? The older you get and the more senior you get, you have to start calculating on different metrics. So as a student or as a human, we have 6 to 8 metrics on how we define success. For some it's money, for some it's purpose, for some it's flexibility, for some it's happiness. You have different metrics. So the more senior you get, it's like a funnel, the less opportunities you have. So every time when I am, headhunters approach me or whatever, there's always 2 jobs I have that I have to choose from. And I choose it based on a calculated methodology. The younger you are, less calculation required, because the world is your oyster. When I did my bachelor's, I had 2 degrees, business and art. My supervisor told me you should take art. So I did theater, I did acting, I did watercolor, and I'm an introvert. I am an introvert, by the way. Up until the age of 25, I was an introvert. I didn't talk to girls, I didn't do anything, I just in my own little shell. But in my bachelor's, those 4 years in the United States was the best academic experience I had in my life. The best. They exposed me to art, they exposed me to do public speaking, so there's 6 talks I had to do, and I was sweating. The video was filmed, so the first talk I was like a waterfall. You have waterfalls in Mauritius, I was like 1. The second speech, less waterfall. The third speech, less waterfall. The 6th one, final exam, easy. You come in, the professor gives you a topic, you have 5 minutes to prepare, you deliver it. I studied religion, I studied Christianity, I studied Bible. I'm a Hindu, and this college said you have to study Bible. Okay, studied it. It was so cool. I studied, it's when opportunities come up at your age, you seize them. Because the older you get, not many opportunities. It becomes harder, you're more niche. So I would say a bit of calculation if you get stressed easily. But if you don't get stressed, just go with the flow, man. Because it's your legacy. You look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you don't want to have any regrets. That's why when Isha asks me if I have any regrets, I don't. Because I just say yes to whatever. If I don't like it, I'll say, bye, I'm resigning, or see you later. Because money is not my driver, purpose. I have to be engaged in a marriage, at work, with family. I have to be engaged. If not, you will see this switch off. And when this switches off, it's dangerous. Because my mind is somewhere else. Make sense? Any questions from that end? Amazing. All made sense?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
This row, any questions? I hope you haven't missed a class to be here.
So I would like to thank Mr. Kaushik and every one of you to be present here today, and I hope you learned something. I for one did, and I hope that you did too. So